Welcome to the wrap-up show of The Handmaid's Tale podcast. Mayday, The Handmaid's Tale podcast. We were wrapping it up. This is after episode 10, so it's over. It's like done. How's everybody doing? Who's here with us today? Let's introduce everybody.
I'm Sarah, and I'm back.
Hey, it's Tiana.
I'm Crystal Mert.
Yay, Crystal's back.
Yay!
She's filling in for Rhea. Rhea's done.
Rhea's over it.
Rhea's over it. Rhea's like, whatever. So we are here basically to just kind of wrap it up, talk about how we felt about the show overall, and we got some questions from our social media folks, which I'm very excited to talk about because there are some outstanding things we get to talk about. Wanted to talk about the giveaway we're currently doing, which I love so much I can't even describe it. So the thing we're giving away is called Of Kins, which this woman Sarah, she created these things, and when I saw them, I was like, I have to have one, and we have to give them away on the show. I love them so much. So
I think we need to start asking people who are making these awesome things if they could, like, give one that we can internally give away to one of us, and one that we can, you know,
one for the show and one to give
for the
away.
Show, one for the audience.
Every time. I like that because I would love one. I think they're like, it would be such like a great conversation piece just to have. That's how I've been building it up.
Hey, we could set up like a little Talking Dead set.
You could do like a nativity set like that. That's right. Said that. So we are giving away the Ovkin. Really, I think all you have to do, I'm trying to even remember what my own contest is. I believe all you had to do is retweet us and follow us on Twitter. And we are at Handmade Podcast on Twitter. So you can find us there. Check it out, and you can win an Ovkin. The one we are giving away is a Serena Joy off-red pair. And so they are yours to do with what you want. You can recreate any scene in the show.
You could make them fight. That's what I would do.
They're a cool pair.
They are. It's definitely a cool pair. She does.
Maybe you could like attach them to a Rock'em Sock'em Robot set and battle it out.
I see. I hadn't thought about Rock'em. See, I've thought about every other board game for this show, but not Rock'em Sock'em Robot Handmade Edition. Hey, that's pretty great.
Bring in the old school.
I never thought about fighting them. I definitely did that with my Barbies. Yeah,
but then when one of the hands pops off, you lose it because that's how they roll in Gilead. You don't get your hand back.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Sad. Yeah. Sad.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm just thinking about that scene, and I was like, "What are they doing?"
Yeah, we didn't get to talk to you for the.
I know.
We didn't get to talk to Crystal.
We haven't gotten Crystal's take on much.
We'll get Crystal's take on the final episodes.
It was like stressing my cat out.
Because when was the last time you were on? Episode 8?
Yeah,
so
I think
two more to go? Okay,
yeah.
So yeah, we'll get a few thoughts from Crystal. So, the future of Mayday, I feel like we need to talk about this up front so everybody knows what's going on. So our plan is to do monthly releases until the random date in 2018 that has yet to be announced when Season 2 rolls back around. So we're going to be kind of going, obviously there's no show to talk about, so we're going to kind of roll with covering the news and information about the show, you know, all the stars, who's doing what everybody else has going on in between these projects. I know Margaret Atwood actually has a couple shows in the works, and Netflix is doing one of hers. They're doing Alias Grace. Elizabeth Moss has a bunch of stuff going on between now and then. Like, I don't know what she clearly doesn't sleep.
She's like the actress of the moment now.
Yeah, and she's doing some cool stuff. She's doing a movie or show, doing like a mini show, like 4 episodes, I think, of I don't know if anybody read this. I read it, or I had it read to me because I'm an audiobook guy. A book called Fever. Anybody? It's by Mary Beth Keane. It's about Typhoid Mary.
Ooh, interesting.
It's a historical fiction, which was something I hadn't read before, so I thought it would be kind of cool. It's a really good book, so you should check it out. It's called
Is
Fever.
Elizabeth Moss Typhoid Mary?
I believe Elizabeth Moss is Typhoid Mary.
Huh.
And it's a really cool book, and it's historical fiction, so they take some liberties like you do in historical fiction, but the story is awesome, so she's going to be doing that. She's got and this is the second season of the show that I'd never heard of until I have to do research for this show, called Top of the Lake. Anybody?
No.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Sundance Channel detective show based in Australia. Apparently there was a little hubbub because they're supposed to tape it in Australia, but then she wasn't Australian when they made the lead actress, and then Australia got mad and said you got to go to New Zealand. So
that's Australia light, so it's fine.
It's like, I guess that's a decent consolation
You got to go to
prize.
work.
Or like Australia Amber.
Right.
Like,
it's just
as good. It's just as good. It's just differently beautiful.
That's hilarious.
Oh my
so
goodness.
she's going to be doing that, which comes out in September sometime. And then she's got a couple other projects. She's got a ton of things going, as do most of the cast. So we'll keep you apprised on all of that. We'll also keep covering the topical stories in the news that apply to the themes of the show. It seems to be no shortage of those. They just keep coming. It's like
it writes itself.
It does write itself.
Given
what the fuck, Missouri?
Recent.
What?
Oh,
said what the fuck, Missouri?
Oh my god.
What the fuck? Everywhere. At this point.
I know, but Missouri most recently on my radar. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
Super bad. We're gonna have some interviews. I've been talking to some people to line up some things.
What?
None of them are official yet, so I
Stuff
don't want
and
to say them
things
out
with people?
loud. I know, right?
Oh my gosh!
Talking
I
to
can't
people.
Wait.
And then we're gonna have some people doing some recurring things. Some people that we've talked to. I'm talking with the guy from Heroic Girls who we interviewed for over the first 3 episodes. He's gonna do kind of a recurring thing with us monthly to talk about the things that are going on in the comic, pop culture, geek side of
girl
things.
Hero things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he'll be doing that. I'm excited about that. And of course, I know somebody brought this up. Are we going to do more giveaways? And the answer is yes.
Duh.
Of course. Because there's so much awesome stuff out there that it's ridiculous that I haven't even scratched the surface. So I'm very excited to find more cool Handmaid's Tale stuff because it's just amazing. Like finding the Ovkens and being able to give those away, which I love because she's not selling them. That's the other thing. Like she doesn't sell them. She just makes them.
How
and
cool
they're
is
just
that?
there. I think it's like the best thing ever. So, so we'll also be covering, normal pop culture stuff. We're kind of excited. It's going to be kind of a more free form, give us a little more stuff to, a little more freedom to do what we want to do instead of having to talk about the show. So, we also have some other podcast ideas brewing. There is actually one that nobody here knows about that is actually happening. Justin and Rhea are doing a little mini podcast, 5 episodes I think it's going to be. It's called Project Musicult.
Nice.
You ready for this? So,
No.
now all of you in the room except for Crystal, Rhea is a musical person, right?
Duh.
Loves the musicals. There's probably been a Hamilton reference in most of our episodes of our podcast. Die-hard, hardcore musical fan. I, on the other hand, while I am not offended by musicals, as my wife is the opposite. She can't deal with it.
She hates him, I know.
Hates them. I have just not seen very many. I did some in high school, and I've seen like your greatest hits, like your.
Wait, back up. You did
Yeah.
some in high school? I didn't know this about you.
I was theater dude. Yeah.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about this later.
Oh, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
There's no shame in my game. So I am very much so I've not seen very many newer musicals past like your West Side Stories and your kind of normal greatest hits high school kind of stuff that you would see. And I am kind of a weird movie kind of guy. I like cult classic, weirdo, kind of out of the box kind of stuff. So we're going to combine our efforts. And I talked to her and I was like, here's what we're going to do. So she gave me her, not top 5 best, but her favorite musicals. I'm giving her my top 5 favorite cult movies. We're going to watch them one at a time, working up from 5 to 1, and we're going to meet and discuss them and see where that goes.
I just want to watch these discussions happen.
That's what the podcast is for. So you get
No,
to hear
I
them
wanna-
happen. Oh, you could watch it.
I wanna
You just want to
show
come
up.
watch it with me. That'd be great. I do. We're going to watch them separately, but I would really love to watch Rhea watch some of the things that I'm making her
Yeah,
watch.
it's
It's going to be outstanding. I want to say some thank yous before we go too far. So I want to thank all of you people sitting here in front of me talking, because you are literally the stars of the show, and Rhea for being amazing. So thank you all for participating. Special Crystal for it's very nice to have met you through this whole process, and
Yes,
I hope we get to do something else. Sarah for stepping in when Jason bailed on us. What is this happening? What's over here?
I was just
Did I phrase something improperly?
I was just
Very
like,
awkward turtle.
Why?
Hope you can do something else, as if like after this you can go away.
No, I meant like as with us.
I know, just the way you said it was really funny.
Tiana ruins everything.
That'd be easy.
All right, so I also want to give a big
shit.
shout out to Mr. Todd. That's my guy, Tiana's husband, Todd, who filled in and did all the sound work for me while we were gone. That was awesome. And to my lovely wife and all the spouses that have had to deal with all the schedules of having podcast recordings. So that was awesome. And to all our listeners and lovely folks who download this podcast, it has by far exceeded anything that I was kind of even imagining. So we had a really successful run, and that's why we're going to keep going. And so it is all because of you guys listening out there. And thank you to Hulu for making the show, being very, very supportive, and having a really good social marketing campaign that has really gotten people kind of into the show and talking about the show and keeping going about the social aspects of the show. And for Margaret Atwood for writing a kick-ass book that can be adapted and letting us talk about it.
Many kick-ass books.
Many kick-ass. I did not realize until this week how many kick-ass books as I was like looking. That's a lot of kick-ass books. That's prolific, if you will.
Yes.
All right. So the last thing I'd like to talk about, I got to meet and talk with these women from Australia on this podcast called Deviant Women. Couple things. Fortnite. Anybody aware? Fortnite. Do you know what it is?
A month.
Wrong.
What is it?
Every 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it's 2 weeks.
Oh.
Crystal knew she didn't want to say. She didn't want to be that kid in class.
It's in Shakespeare too, so I
It's
a fortnight in odd days.
My wife knew that. She was like,
she's
like, if I didn't teach Shakespeare, there was no way I'd know that.
I was gonna say I wasn't confident enough, but Juliet is not 14, and for another fortnight and odd days, so she's 13 when she meets Romeo.
There you go.
No one cares.
Creepily young.
Knowledge.
Shut up, Sarah.
Dropping knowledge.
Okay.
So yeah, that was one of the things. Like the language, some of the words that they used was kind of funny, and it's not like it's terrible, but it was Fortnite and keen. They say keen a lot, which is amazing. I love it. But they were also not aware that we didn't use Fortnite over here. I was like, no, it's like not a thing. I like it better because sometimes you get confused if you say every other week or every 2 weeks. It's a little like ambiguous. But Fortnite, it is what it is. It's 2 weeks. I like it. I dig it. I'm going to try and bring it back.
You're going to make it a thing.
They also call
Fortnite.
zucchini courgette and
Shut up.
jumping rope skipping.
But then what do you call skipping?
I don't know.
This is like football
Frolicking.
versus
You know what?
soccer. Then what do you call skipping?
We're gonna have them on one day to answer all
I
our
want to
Australia
know
questions.
what they call skipping.
So they were awesome, and we did a crossover. We did two things. We did a crossover episode where because what they do is they cover fortnightly a deviant woman. Could be from history, could be mythological. They do fictional characters. So it could be anything, and they decided because Australia does not get Handmaid's Tale for another week, so it doesn't launch there until July 6th. So I contacted them when I found them because I was like, oh, you guys do stuff that's right in our wheelhouse. So let's talk, and you guys don't get the podcast, or you don't get the show until later, so let's do a thing. So they did a whole episode on Margaret Atwood and the Handmaid's Tale, and we talked about it, and I kind of laid out what I knew and my perspective of the whole thing. And then they also went back, and we did this yesterday, did mini episodes on the major female characters. So we did every female character except for Rita. We didn't have time to do Rita. So we did Ovglen, Offred, Serena Joy, Janine. Of course we did Janine.
Yeah.
I was not.
You almost need a full
We were
episode
running
for
short on
Janine.
time, and I was like,
do.
look, there's one thing
Oh
I got to talk about Janine.
Spoiler alert. I listened to an interview with Bruce Miller, the show's creator, today, and he said Janine will definitely be in season 2, so she is not dead. Because the last time we leave her, she was about to be, not really, but stoned.
Oh, yeah, right.
In the
Salvaging.
Participation or whatever, yeah.
Salvaging.
Yeah, the salvaging. And we don't know what happens to Janine because the focus then becomes on Offred's rebellion from that. So Bruce Miller said that there would definitely be more of Madeline Brewer in season 2, so that was an exciting
She
thing.
was fantastic.
I was excited for Justin.
I'm excited for myself. So yeah, we did all that, and they are awesome, and I'm hoping to do more work with them. It was funny because the one Lauren, there's two hosts, Lauren and Alicia, and Lauren had seen it because according to her, quote unquote, everyone in Australia has a VPN, so we could watch whatever we want. Alicia, however, is different. They're great because they're completely different people. Alicia has no social media, is like totally old school, has not watched the show, so she has no idea. So me and Lauren have both watched it, and so really we're excited just for that episode 3 moment. That's kind of my go-to when I talk about people starting the show. I'm like, have you gotten to episode 3 yet? Like if I love going on Twitter because it's my favorite thing to do. I just like search for starting Handmaid's Tale. And so I asked people, what episode are you on? And they're like, oh, episode 2. I was like, oh, okay.
Just wait.
So when you get to 3,
Okay, I never remember things by episode. What happened
so
in episode
the third episode is where Ovglen wakes up in the surgical center, for lack of a better term, I guess.
At the end, when she had the FGM.
Yeah. So that's kind of my go-to because that is like...
Yeah, it does really change after that. The tone is...
Yes.
You're just like prepared for anything.
Yes.
Then.
The first 3 episodes set the tone. And
it'll get really dark.
It's bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of the purpose. That's what I told them. I was like, the first 3 episodes are really to like really lay out how terrible all of this is. And so, yeah. Lauren...
Oh my god, we never knew what actually happened to her either.
Oh, we did? Oh, like no,
Well,
like
you did-
in like period,
Yeah,
like
you
what
did
happened to
after
character?
that.
No,
But yeah, we don't know.
but we
at the
do
end of
know.
the
We'll talk
season.
about that in a
Does she ever
second.
come
We'll talk
I
about that in a
totally
second.
forgot
Hold on,
about that
hold on,
moment. Sorry.
hold on. We'll get to it. That's awesome. I love that reaction. So anyway, I talked to Lauren and Alicia last night, and so the mini episodes I believe should be up soon. The Margaret Atwood episode is up now, so you can go get it for the next couple weeks, and then I'm hoping to meet back with them once Alicia has gotten to see some of the show and give her reaction. So check out the Deviant Women podcast. You can find that at all your normal podcast place, and I believe they are deviantwomenpodcast.net or .com. All right, so let's talk about what Crystal was just talking about, because there has been kind of a lot of news about the show fairly early after the show.
I'm surprised how much
Yeah.
they're willing to say about what is and isn't going to be on next season. Well, really just is going to be on next season. I mean, I'm excited because like it's keeping me tuned in, but also like it's a really long wait.
It is. And I think maybe that's why they're giving a little bit of, information, because people have so long to wait that people are like, oh, we need something. But let's talk about what you were talking about. Because, we did not know what the fate of Avglin / Emily was, right? So the last thing we knew, she ran over a guard and blew up his head like that, which
like a watermelon.
Still don't think that's how it happens. But
I think it does. And no, I think it is.
Really?
You know how like TV shows they never show like how gruesome violence actually is? Doesn't it make sense? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I know.
That's why you think if you get shot, you'll just be able to like stand up and like run and keep fighting. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think that, just for the record. I think I will lay down and cry.
Well, no, but like it's just like
that actually does kind of happen.
it does in your mind. You
No. Like they still can
yeah.
fight after they've gotten
That is
shot. Like
Because of the adrenaline?
yeah, something in their
Drugs?
body.
Drugs sometimes.
Yeah, drugs really help that. But something in your body, the adrenaline, or your body like seizes in order to try to keep you alive. Like your body does a lot of really actually amazing things to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And
They couldn't like
Taking
they
away
couldn't
her
have
clitoris.
just disposed of her.
No.
Even like the show couldn't have just disposed
No.
of her that way, right? She's gonna.
And so, for those of you who don't know, spoiler alert, I'll give you 5 seconds to run away from the podcast.
Time's up.
Alexis Bledel will be back for season 2 in quote-unquote a larger role, and a more leading role is what they specifically called it.
Whoa.
Bruce Miller's pretty enamored of her.
Yes, and I think
She's pretty great.
It's hard not
as
to
far
be.
as I know, that's the only dramatic performance that I have seen her in, so I'm sure she's done other things, but as far as dramatic acting and of that range, that's the only thing because I've only seen her in Gilmore
Well,
Girls.
she was the most dramatic part of Gilmore Girls.
You know what? She was in
That's saying a
Mad
lot.
Men too, though.
She was in Mad Men?
Yeah, she was like the older kind of woman
Didn't know that.
Don Draper was messing with.
No,
Yeah.
never seen the episode of that show. So let's talk about this that I do know was brought up by Bruce Miller himself after the show. In that, and I always take these kinds of things with a grain of salt. So they made a point though of saying that the chatter on the various social medias regarding their handling or not of the race issue in the show has made them put more of a focus on it, and that they will be handling it differently and acknowledging it in some way, shape, or form
Thank God.
in season 2.
That is going to be so interesting. I feel like they're probably going to be damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Oh, yeah, totally. They've set themselves up for that.
Yeah.
Because so many people are paying so much attention now. There's just no way they're going to make a broad swath of any of those people happy. Or that's just...
Not that they need to, but it's just...
Well, and how can anyone do that ever? I mean, it's so hard.
I feel like if they had tackled it on their own first, like there's always going to be some people that are not happy with what you're doing. But I think if they had tried on their own first and like made a genuine effort with lots of input from different groups of people, it would be a lot easier. Like now they have set themselves up where like no matter what you do, people are going to be pissed.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, you're right. And you're not going to make anybody happy. They made it so much worse.
Yeah. Like not intentionally. I'm sure.
So
I'm sure it was ignorance, not.
I think Crystal's
malice,
right. So
but,
you gotta.
Because part of me believes that even in today's context, there would still be some sacrificing of women of color and their children. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they'd be like, okay, we want children, but not those children. So even in 2017, it's sort of
white
hard for me
people
to
love
believe.
mixed babies. They would totally take those children. They just wouldn't want the women there.
I don't know if those
white
type
people
of
love them
want
some mixed babies.
Mixed kids though. Those type of white folks want purity.
I am a mixed person. I'm allowed to say that.
So what? I guess let me ask this then. What could they do to make it at least satisfied in your mind? What are you looking for?
I would like to see what the commanders have to say. Like, can we see some of their, like, planning meetings? That's
No,
kind of what
I'm being specific about the racial stuff.
Racial things?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I mean.
Well-
Like, I would want to see what they have to say about that. Like, surely that
I see what you're
didn't
saying.
not ever come
Right,
up when they
how
were
they
planning
discuss
the
race.
demise of America. Like, I would really like to see, like, we got those moments in the car where they were talking about, like, they basically invented the ceremony in a 5-minute conversation in the car.
Yeah, but thinking about the dynamics of like what it would mean to be a black woman in that situation, it's just totally different. So I almost like wanting a character that is kind of speaking to that, or I'll say woman of color, that is speaking to that experience. Does that make sense? Like
Maybe we'll get to see more
That's
Rita.
I guess that's what I'm
and
looking for.
learn some
Speaking
more
to it
about
how.
that through Rita.
sorry, what'd you say?
Maybe we'll get to learn more of that through Rita.
No, I'm talking
This
about a
isn't true?
black handmaid.
Oh, okay.
So someone who is in a white home serving as a handmaid, and the dynamics of that relationship between her and that family,
And
I
that
think
wife.
would be, and the wife, I think would be interesting because and like it would be in a lot of ways a direct parallel of slavery, and I wonder if they would be provocative enough to like try to make some present day parallels with that kind.
Do you
of
think that
dynamic.
played
I don't
into
know.
why they didn't touch on it as much?
I think their miss on people of color was less of an attention and like a lack of attention to it. I think it was less of like a.
So you don't think they were afraid of the issue?
I don't
You
think
just
they were
think they just blew
intentionally
through it?
exclusive. They were just like, oh,
I think Bruce
people
Miller
of
was
color
probably.
not that important to this storyline.
Well, I think he was probably just so concerned, and again, this is not an excuse, but with trying to be sensitive, because this is a male writing a show about female
Right,
issues.
and in that same article, he did mention that he was really cognizant of the
Oversensitive, yeah.
fact that he was the only one in the room that was a man with the writing staff, and that he wanted to make sure that was really the thing that was on the forefront of his mind, was not ruining a
Not fucking
show
that part up.
right,
Right.
exactly.
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that feminism
That's what I was
doesn't
gonna
have
say.
those
Yeah.
elements of it, of like what is it for women of color versus white women versus
Yeah.
but I think he was just trying to tackle, for somebody who isn't a woman, there's so many different aspects of it that it's probably pretty overwhelming. So I'm sure he was just like, I just don't want to screw up everything. But he
Yeah,
wanted
I
it
think-
also to reflect real life, which is where he really did misstep there, because in real life there are women of color and it is a different thing for them.
Yeah.
So he was like, when they had that initial car crash with June and Luke with Hannah, so he was like, I agonized over the decision of having Luke drive, because I thought that was sort of sexist to have the man drive and whatever. But he's like, then I realized that like oftentimes when you look around, sometimes the man in the relationship does drive, not because he's better or worse than anybody, it's just kind of how things end up going. So he's like, so then I thought it really did reflect real life, so you could tell he was trying to be as conscious as he could, but he can only go so far with it being a man. He doesn't know.
Well, and here's
Well, I
what-
think the thing
Oh,
about
sorry.
it. Well, I think the thing. It's like with all the conversations in Hollywood around Oscars so white and just the lack of representation. I'm not going to even just say black women, but just people of color in leading roles and important roles on TV shows and movies. Period. I don't know how that would have been any more stressful than everything else he was trying to figure out. I guess because in my head, I deal with the intersectionalities all day, every day. So I'm always code switching and thinking about how I am in one position and how I'm in another position or in another setting. So I don't have a whole lot of empathy for that in a lot of ways.
Well, and that's part of what I wonder, and I don't know officially, but I do believe that I don't think that there is. I think it's an all-white writing team. I believe. I know he's the head writer.
I think you're right too.
And
I
I
think
think
I remember
that's
reading that.
right. So I think that when you do have that happen, and you have a team that is all white and doesn't have to code switch like you're talking about, and doesn't have to deal with those things, it's not going to come up. It's probably going to be, not the last thing that they think of, but unless you have someone that is, having that as one of their issues that is in the forefront of their mind as a white person, then it's probably going to be kind of left in the back. And I think that's the other part of the problem, not only just the roles in Hollywood for leading actors, but the writing of these shows, that they did a great job of casting for the most part. I still have an issue myself with the fact that Moira and Rita were really the only two major characters of color and that we kind of only saw that there were, kind of had to guess whether there were any handmaids that were of a different, of color, to later episodes when they just kind of showed them randomly.
Were there any
Yeah,
like
no,
Asian?
Yeah, there was.
Yes,
some
yes.
Asian
One-
That was the big
Yes.
question. So we saw the African American ones, and they were like, "Were there?" Because somebody on Facebook posted one day, they're like, "I guess all the Asians were really smart and just kind of left the week before this all happened."
Yeah.
Because you until that, I think
Until
the big
the
party
ceremony,
scene,
yeah,
the
the-
big party
yeah,
scene,
party
they
scene, yeah.
didn't show any, and so I think that was, So I think when you make your decisions on who your staff is going to be and how you're going to make a show, I think that all filters down into how the show is presented, and I think that's
and
what
I mean,
you saw.
I still I love the show, but I remember when Tiana talked to me about it, I literally said to her, I was like, I never watched it because I just thought it was a show for white women. I mean, really, like the book and the way it was talked about, and then the show, I was like, well, I don't think I see myself in that at all. I don't see why I would enjoy watching that show.
Sure.
And then you think about the greater conversation around feminism and who's participating in that right now.
Yep.
It's as if we've just gone back into time, and it's the exact same issue. So just with all the shitstorm of the politics,
Well,
and
that's what
these
they want.
movements,
They want it to be 1950 all over again. So
you would think
job.
that there was some like recognition around like the issues that we're talking about within even the context of women's issues, to just maybe add some diversity in there. But
Yeah.
Well,
they're
I
gonna
think
address it,
I think
so
that's
it's interesting to
probably-
me because this is not a new thing, right? Like Orange is the New Black had this issue. I think like their first season, everybody kind of got up in arms because of that cast, which is very racially diverse, and they all came to find out that whole writing cast was white, and people were like, "What the hell?" And so they fixed that problem to their credit, and I think the show has been obviously a success from that point on. So I guess I don't get why it keeps happening. Like, why do you not? I'm not saying.
I think it just keeps happening because people, and this is going to be very general, obviously, but when you get a room full of white folks together, the first thing they think about isn't, are we representing minorities accurately? That's just not what comes up.
Sure,
That's not a first thought.
I suppose so, but I was thinking today, and here's the interesting thing. Like, I was thinking about other podcasts coming up and thinking about how, for me, having done this show now with you and Crystal, Tiana is biracial, Crystal is African American, and to me, moving forward, it was really weird to think about doing a show where I didn't have some diversity on the other side. Like, for me to have me and another, not that it, there's shows with 2-3 white guys talking all the time, and they're
Most
fine.
shows are
Right.
two white guys, yeah.
But for me, it's weird not to have the representation of a different perspective, because I think, for me, that's the point, is the viewpoint, and the differences there. That's what kind of excites me and gets me going about shows.
It's interesting to me to think about a cast of all white writers writing for African American characters and not one of them going, hey, maybe we should talk to an African American person.
Oh, man.
Like with Orange is the New Black, there's so many diverse characters in there. Not
Yeah.
one of them was like, should we even like call somebody and ask them? Like if they had a question, like no one.
Does
all the
anybody
white
want to
people-
call their single black friend?
Or
For
let's be
input?
honest, do you want to walk across the room to the person you're writing the lines for and say, hey, why don't you help me like make this authentic, or at least how
Right?
is what I'm writing being done correctly? And I don't know that they didn't do that, so I'm kind of speaking for
we're
them.
totally
Your own
speculating.
Research and hire people. That's the
Yeah.
conversation.
And that's my thing. And
hire people.
in my
There are
head,
people who
I
wanna do
always-
these jobs. Hire them.
So we can move on from that. I just wanted to get your perspective on their at least acknowledging it and semi-claiming that they're going to do something with it. So it'll be interesting to see.
I'm glad to hear that they, realize that is not a trivial issue and that they should think about it more.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle it in the confines that they've already set up for themselves.
It would be amazing if they fixed it by hiring some diverse writers.
Right.
That would be a great idea.
Well, also, I heard in an interview Bruce Miller talked about we're going to see the colonies, I think.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that might be-
You think you're gonna have one in Detroit?
That's a good question. I don't know where
They did in the book vaguely mention at some point that a lot of the African Americans that weren't taken into Gilead, because they did get rid of them in the book, were sent to upper Midwest regions
Oh, wow.
and just left alone.
My question watching the show was I wonder if they'll do Handmaid's Tale in other city centers like Detroit. St.
That would
Louis,
be awesome.
would not be the same outcomes.
No,
Shit would be
no.
wild. I just just want like a little, like I want like one mini part of the episode to be like,
could you imagine
Handmaid's Tale Detroit edition?
Right,
Like,
just
it
like
would've been,
flash
like-
over there. In
I'm
like
from
10
Detroit,
minutes.
by the way.
I would also really like to see the cities where like it's like out west and maybe down south in like Texas where like everybody is armed all the time.
Oh,
How would the
shit.
takeover have worked?
I'm trying to think. Has there been any other news other than that? So, Alexis Bledell's coming back. Janine not dead, obviously.
Yeah, both great
Um,
news.
Yeah,
They changed the storyline at the end from the book to keep Moira alive, so we'll be
Yes.
seeing Moira next season.
Yes.
And I'm
Very
ecstatic
excited.
about
Very
that.
excited about Moira. I
She's-
guess we're going to find out
she's
about
my
Luke a
favorite
little
part
more.
of this story, for sure.
So, we'll see. We're excited for the future, for sure.
What the fuck are we ever learn like more about Hannah? I mean, we got that tiny little peek toward the end there.
Yeah. They're
I'm
saving
sure.
that
Come
one. They're
on.
dangling that one. They're not going to touch
Absolutely.
that for a while.
I want to know more about what happens to the kids they took away.
Right?
Yeah, the children.
That is a lot of kids.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we forgot to mention. I mean, they're not lead characters, but Luke and Hannah are also like of color.
And don't
Not-
forget, and somebody brings this up in one of the questions I ask, don't forget about Luke's lady that he brought with him up to Canada.
Oh yeah, the
yeah.
silent woman.
Yep.
What was her name?
Sorry
Erin?
for her. I hope they don't.
It seemed like she was still silent
She
when,
was. I
I
when
think
we
her name
saw
is
her.
Erin,
at the
and
end.
Bruce Miller mentioned doing something more with Erin.
Okay.
Maybe
Who
he
knows
just
what
felt
that
She could be a really
sweet.
interesting
I don't want him to
character.
be with her.
Yeah, I don't want them to get
I
together.
just
That
hope
would be
he
weird.
just like is trying to just help her because he's a nice person. Maybe he's a
Yeah,
social worker.
That's
What
what
does
I
he
was
do?
hoping too.
What does he do for a living?
I
Do we
don't
know?
remember.
think he's
Who
But it does
knows?
seem
I
like
was gonna make that up.
his character does seem like somebody in the show that would just
Like
like
at the
help
school,
the
yeah.
the only other person that survived that ordeal that he went through to get out of the country.
He seems like the nice, cool social worker at your school. You're like, oh, does he have a girlfriend? I like him. He's cute.
He,
Sounds really
he
nice
reminded me of a
kids.
particular person
Let's
that
keep
we used
in
to
mind
work with.
he's super attractive, so I doubt too many women are turning him down.
You're talking about the social worker or Luke?
Luke.
No, they were talking about the social
No, I'm
worker.
saying Luke. No, I'm
No.
saying
Oh, you're talking about Luke.
Is a,
Yeah.
I just made
He
it
Oh, you
seems
want
like
Luke
he
to
would
be a social worker.
Luke is a social
All
worker.
right, I thought we were talking about friendly Canadian social worker at the refugee center again.
Oh,
At-
no. He's just
At the Happy, Clean
I can't
Canadian
remember if
Refugee
he was
Center of
attractive or not.
I
Happiness.
was going to say he was so whatever that I don't remember him at all. But Luke's pretty good looking, so I don't think I'll have too much trouble with the ladies down in Little America or wherever he's living.
Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
In Little America,
Little
which is
That mess
awesome.
with me, y'all.
Where they
That
keep
really
all the
messed with me.
McDonald's.
What, the Little
The
America?
fuck with me.
Really
real
mess
talk.
with your head?
Yeah, because I just felt like maybe one day we'll have a Little America,
Seriously.
like American refugees. That shit scares me, like in real life.
All right, so before we get on to, I can't wait for some of these social media questions, but,
I
all
love
right,
it.
so
He's
before we
just-
get to the questions, we need to talk to Crystal about what she thought about episodes 9 and 10. So how did you feel about the ending of the show?
Oh, I need like.
I'm asking you
topics.
right now.
It's too much. I
How
have
did
too
you?
many.
Well, just give us an overall. How did you feel about the way they
Are you
wrapped
getting your
everything up?
notes out?
Do you have notes?
I
I'll
do.
wait for you. That's cool.
Okay,
Yay.
I have so many
No
feelings.
rush.
Do you want me to actually try to do this right now?
I mean, you
Yeah,
don't have to do them
please.
all, but give us your,
Okay, well,
Distill
first of
it.
all, okay, this is probably my, okay, so that first scene where Serena, like, knocks Alfred, like,
Oh,
fuck
the
up.
backhand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
Woo,
God.
Right?
I was like, she's gonna beat her ass. Like, I was like certain. I was like, they're gonna throw down the first part of this episode, right?
Yeah.
And I guess she was so stunned by it, she couldn't do anything.
If she didn't have a
Oh,
concussion,
you thought that
off?
Offred was going to beat up
I
Serena?
thought she was gonna beat her ass. No, I
Oh.
thought she was gonna like snap. Cause I mean, you can,
I
did you
see.
see the way she hit the door frame and bounced.
She bounced
back.
off.
Yeah. You're like, well, when you don't see that
Ugh.
coming, you don't
You
see
don't,
it.
yeah,
No,
you don't, you're not.
hard.
And
it may
it's
be
and
hard.
again with the 6-inch heels, it's coming from up here. So with the trajectory, it's a whole different ballgame. See, you laugh at me every time I talk about those heels.
It's really funny.
It's one of the things that just sticks in my head because it makes a
Clearly.
difference if you get the reach and the height. Like, what do you think they do all the numbers in boxing?
It's not super
Reach
stable
and
when
the
you're
height.
standing on 6-inch heels, though. Just
Yeah, but it
FYI.
helps. Mhm.
I mean, like Maura being alive. That was
Yeah, how did you feel about that?
when she saw that like license plate. I was just like, oh my gosh, she made it. And then I thought, like, is something gonna happen? Is she gonna die of exposure? And we're gonna think
Is it
that
a
she
random
made-
car from Canada that somebody just put in
That's
a
No,
what
I
was
had that
afraid
thought
of.
too. That happens in Detroit. That happens all the time. It's Ontario license plate. You're not in Ontario.
Yeah.
You are in Port Huron. Like, you're not there yet. So yeah, that really got to me. But I think the main scene of that episode that just like, if I ever meet Elizabeth Moss, I will like give her like a best friend hug and like squeeze her cheeks and like shake her like, you are amazing. Was the scene when she went to go see her daughter.
Yeah.
And afterwards, when she just
loses her mind.
Loses her shit. And she cussed. It was just so real because she cussed her out in a way where like she wasn't even using the right patterns of curse words.
Right.
She's like, how many motherfuckers can I insert in this sentence without any regard for who you are as a person? And I was just like, yes. And then I really also thought that when they got out of the car, I was just thinking like, okay, there's no way she's going to be able to get out of the car with her at home and not do anything. And I say this because if I was pregnant, I would be pulling all the cards, right? Like, beat me up, bitch, right? Like, let's go. I don't want this baby anyway. We're going to fight.
You would be starting some stuff all the time.
No, yeah, because I mean, like, I am pregnant
I
with
do
her.
feel like that's the flaw in their
child.
system, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, unless they're going to tie them down and just put them on bed rest for 9 months, you've pretty much...
I would not put that past them. That totally seems
no,
like
that's
the
what I'm
next step.
saying. But let's pretend they're not going to do that and they haven't thought of that in their daily meetings. Yeah, that's the kind of the flaw, is that once the women are pregnant, they kind of have all the power.
I mean, she definitely... I think the end of the episode was her exercising her, like, pregger power. Like, just being like...
Pregger power.
Her
Love
pregger
it.
privilege, right? She was just
Love
like,
it.
okay, I'm not going to do this, and it's not going to be anything you're going to do about it because I'm pregnant. So I'm going to drop this stone. I know everyone else is going to follow me because that's fucked up, and we're not doing it.
Right.
And you're not going to do anything to me because I'm pregnant.
All right, so let's get to some of these. I proposed. What did I do? I asked people on the social medias, the Facebooks, the Twitters, and the Instagrams, to give us some questions, and I pretty much left it open. Ask us whatever you want. You know, I think I made the comment, if you want to ask Justin what his favorite boy band was, I'll talk about that gladly.
Did anybody ask that?
Yeah, the one woman responded.
Oh yeah, because she also said
question, her
favorite
question was
comics, and I was like, oh, we could talk about that for hours.
Yes, she asked, was I a Jordan girl or a Donnie girl? And I said, well, first I'm a Jordan guy. Yeah, so when I have...
It was New Kids on the Block?
Oh, yeah.
Clearly we're of a different generation.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, New Kids on the Block was totally my time.
NSYNC
Yeah.
was...
I was too
Let me
old to
tell you-
listen to NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
Three times.
Let me explain to you something about NSYNC.
It was New Kids on the Block and Boys to Men.
Now,
I forgot about Boys to Men.
Tiana can back me up on this, because how old?
35.
All right, so Tiana's...
I'm 33!
Well, apparently that's long enough.
Like, I don't think people understand. Like, we're talking Beatles-esque, like, fame here for the New Kids on the Block. Like, there were at least, like, 5 other boy band groups when it was
real
New
different
Sync,
than the
when
90s
it was in
boy
Sync
bands.
and Backstreet Boys. It was pretty much just New Kids on the Block, and there was New Edition, who was kind of a little
Not
later
the
in their
same.
run at that point.
Yeah.
But they, like, took over. Like, it was no bullshit, like Beatlemania
They
type.
also hit at just the right moment where there was nobody else doing that style of music at the time, like let alone non-boy bands. Like there was just nobody else doing that thing at the time, and they covered all the bases.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, it was
So to answer the question,
you win.
New Kids on the Block and
far
Jordan,
superior to other boy
because
bands.
Donnie really
except
couldn't
Boyz II
sing.
Men.
Donnie was kind of like he was supposed to be kind of like the rapper guy. He was supposed to be like their street cred guy, right? So he was a tough one.
And Marky Mark was his bro.
And Marky Mark, if
he
you
was
ever
street.
hear the Marky Mark stories, Marky Mark's really the street cred guy, you know?
Yeah. For anybody listening that is too young, Donnie is Donnie Wahlberg.
Sorry.
Mark
Donnie
Wahlberg's
Wahlberg
little brother.
and Jordan Knight. Because I sang when I was growing up. I still sing. A singer. And so Jordan appealed more to me because he was the one that could sing, really.
Well, Boys to
in the
Men
group.
could actually sing. He's a looker.
So that was the answer to that question. I saw New Kids on the Block 3 times in concert.
Ooh, jealous.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I had to start off with this one because we've gotten a lot lately, a little bit of heat about this. So I'm going to read this verbatim. This is from Natasha on Facebook. And she said she didn't have any questions, but she had a comment. I cannot believe the Nick hate.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
He's
Nick
one
is
of
just...
he's one of my favorite characters.
What?
Please.
I know. Just let me get through the question. I think Max has done an awesome job portraying this character. I interpret his reactions and backstory much different than you all do. Nick came off as campy and kind of a dork in the book, which I disagree with, but I don't know. Way more disconnected from reality in the book than in the show, in my opinion. The Keanu Reeves comparison that I made almost made me trip while I was running, and she said, "You all have been my companion while running for the past few months." Now, this is another thing I've had to get used to. So we're doing a podcast. Me actually thinking about other human beings listening to it is still strange.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Right?
Same.
Like, so
It's
this
really
woman is
weird.
somewhere in the world.
I know you're out
running
there.
and listening to
But
us
it's strange.
talk about this show.
That's awesome.
We're
but
not going to
it's
talk
still-
about it too. I can't talk about it too much, or it's going to wig me out because
Yeah.
it's weird. It's weird. Just like it's weird that I've had 3 conversations with women on the other side of the earth that we always joke when I talk to them that they're tomorrow and in the future and in another season. I go, how's tomorrow in the winter? And they're like, oh, it's awesome. You know, it's really cold here. I was like, okay. It's just bizarre. Like, okay, Tiana can attest to this because Tiana has been with this project from the beginning. She was kind of
I think
asked
I'm the only
Rhea to
person
do it.
that's been on
and
every episode.
it was really funny because like I tell this story to like the people I talk about, and I'm like, it just happened. Like I had the idea.
You texted
I got
me like,
Adderall.
I got this thing that I want to do.
That's not even a lie. I got the Adderall. I got the idea. I said, hey, Tiana, do you want to do it? And Tiana was great. It's like, you ever seen the movie The Box, where it's the, if you press this button, somebody's going to die, but you're going to get $1 million? I asked Tiana, hey, you want to do this? And she goes, yes. Like, within half a second. I was like, oh. Like, I didn't even have to, like, usually.
You didn't know at the time
I was
that
expecting
I
to
loved
have
the
to, like, sell that a little bit. And she was like, yes. Like, right now? Yes. And, like, I asked Rhea, and Rhea was like, cool, let's do it. Because I know Rhea was all about it, and Rhea, from an academic standpoint, was, like, would eat it up. And so it happened quick. Because it was, like, I bet maybe a month before the show launched that we decided we're going to do this. And so we had to get the back-end stuff of it blew my mind. Like, how long it took us to do it and the amount of work that it took for us to, like, get the website, get the social media, all this stuff together. And so to Tiana's credit, because I know she spent probably more hours than I even know about working on the various graphics for all the handmade stuff and the
That's not all of it.
and the website.
I only did some of it, and then you kind of took it and ran with it.
I did. So, but yeah, it's still bizarre to think people are out there, and that someone out there likes Nick is even more bizarre to me. But yeah, there's been a little more heat about our, like, you know, because I do when I go on the pages, I call
stand
him.
by my dislike of
So
Nick.
do I.
I call him
he
worthless
does
Nick.
all
and
the
people
wrong
like it
things.
I
best.
think it's like the Nick effect of like women like guys like Nick because they're vacant and you think that you're gonna get to them by loving him or having sex with
Oh,
him.
our commenters are gonna love you.
If I have a baby with him, then maybe he'll like me.
Maybe I can fix him.
No, I think he's that kind of guy. He's got the puppy dog. He's beautiful, right? He's really
He's an attractive guy.
He's got that like,
but he still
dopey
does all the
kind of,
wrong
like,
things,
but
except
I'm
for getting
quiet
her
and
out.
I'm emotional and love me, and then like there are women who are just like, I will love you, and not Natasha. I'm not saying that's who you are. I'm just saying he has the thing about like motherfuckers like that draw you in, right? The strongest woman is a guy who's just like mysterious and cute, and he's all like emotional. You're like, oh, maybe I can bring out the life in him. That's how I interpret it. You can be his manic pixie
Great
dream
answer.
girl.
That's a great answer. I have nothing good to say about Nick, and it's not Max's fault. So
Yeah,
if Max
no,
is
I
out
think
there
the
listening,
actor
which
is
would be
doing a
even
great job, but I
you-
think the character sucks.
with what you had to
No,
work
he's
with,
doing exactly what he should do.
he did a great job.
Yeah.
All right,
Actor,
this is
A+.
from Barrett, who I believe Barrett. I've had a couple interactions with her. She's in the Netherlands or in Denmark, or if those are
Cool.
the same place, I don't know. I'm not a geography guy. She says this is an interesting question. So she's itchy to know where June is going in the van, which I never really thought about. So I read the book, and we were all supposed to. It is rather ambiguous in the book. You just, depending on your perspective in life, you're either like glasses half full, she's getting away, it's gonna be okay, or you're like, oh, she's totally gonna go die somewhere. So she says, where's June going in the van? What do you think? Is she leaving Gilead? Is she going to get punished for going against Aunt Lydia and taken to a secluded place until she's due? Which I think is just a hilarious way to put it. Like, just stay here until it's your time for us to deal with you. She's just curious to know what we think is going to happen.
I think she's being taken into the underground female road. Blah.
What is that?
Oh, Crystal doesn't know about this. So this is
The
interesting.
underground female road
So
is
with-
the underground railroad for
so-
getting women out of Gilead.
Yes. So in the book, so you've not read the book at all.
Mayday,
I have not read the
Mayday,
book.
and the underground
Okay.
female road are two distinct things.
Yes, in the book, actually, so what you find out for the entire book at the end of the book is that what you're reading is essentially tapes of recordings that were found of her telling her story. That they
Should
were.
I read the book?
Yeah.
Totally.
You should have
I
read
talked
the
to you
book a
about
long
this
time
girl.
ago.
I was like,
And
yes,
judging-
you should read the book. Don't
Judging
do
by
both-
Tiana's face, she is like, "Don't even do
Don't
that.
do both
Don't
at
act
the
like
same
this is the
time,
first time."
but yes, you should totally read the book.
It's
Well, I
amazing.
have a year.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
It's great. And so what you find out is that they find these tapes in a house in Maine somewhere that is part of the Underground Railroad network, more or less, for the handmaids to help them escape. And the Quakers, I believe, much like they did during slavery times, are helping the handmaids escape. And so what you find out is that the whole book is basically these recordings from her that they found in the house. So,
okay, so
the answer, yes, you should read the book.
Yeah, I don't know what I thought. I think I was just like so amped. I was like, she's going to a party. Like, so they're going to be like, yeah, you did it, you crazy.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tiana that that's kind of where they're going.
I really
because
hope
that is
that's it. Because I want to see what that world is like.
Yes, it's not really, a lot of it isn't explained in the book or explored or in detail. So
you are given so much less information in the book than you are in the show.
Okay, can we watch it together when that time comes?
Sure.
Can you what?
Watch the first episode together.
Oh, good call. Yeah, we should have a watch party for
Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, man. But you weren't inviting me to the party.
Well, of course you're invited to the party.
Well, now I don't want to go because you didn't invite me.
I invite you, Sarah.
Thank you. I was going to say that I think that, okay, so if she made these tapes and they were eventually found by a future society, right, in the historical notes at the back of the book, then she must have been able to go somewhere safe-ish to be able to make the tapes and organize these things and get it to somebody who would put it somewhere safe so that future people could find it. So I don't take it a negative direction when she goes off into the van, right? Because she's like, this could be the end, this could be the beginning.
But she could be going somewhere bad now and make those tapes later.
Well, so then the bad place that she goes now is only temporary, and eventually she goes to somewhere kind of nice. And it says that the tapes were found in Maine, so we know that she made it as far as Maine. Now, maybe she died in Maine, maybe she made it to Canada, who knows? But I'd like to think that good things happened to June before bad things happened to June, or maybe the other way around.
Don't tell me the end.
I don't know the end, other than what I just told you.
Yeah, no, the book doesn't.
I told you the end of the book.
That's as much as we know.
Frick.
It's worth it, though.
It's crazy.
It's totally
so I have a question
worth it.
to poke a little bit of a hole. I'll play the devil's advocate a little bit for your theory, or at least your mindset of it. So let's use the slavery narrative because it's the most similar thing. So some slaves escaped in the Underground Railroad. Yes. Some of them were taken back. So there is still the possibility that even in the book, the possibility exists that she was found and recaptured.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that's what happened to Moira in the show. Is she tried to escape
before,
and she tried to go through. I think she talks about being with a family and being in the safe house.
Right, but I think when she escaped the first time, she didn't know that system was out there.
Maybe that's true.
Because she had been in the Red Center the whole time. How would she know?
I don't think she made it all the way to Canada and then had to come back.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that she made it at least to a safe house where she thought she was going to get out, and then they got all busted. So that situation still could exist, and then maybe the tapes were just found after she was caught and maybe killed, or fun time, she got away and all is well.
But if somebody captured her, do you think they would be like, yeah, get this lady back in Gilead and let's stone her, but let's keep these tapes and put them in a
maybe the tapes are somewhere else. There's lots of possibilities. I'm just throwing it out. All right, so
wait, what do you think, Crystal?
Yeah, what do you
Oh, I think I was just too excited about the end that I couldn't think of she's too important, so I was like, oh, she's going to be fine. That was kind of my thought. So she's too important to the story.
Which is a safe assumption, too.
Yes.
I was sort of like, she's pregnant, so they're probably going to take her somewhere kind of okay, so she doesn't, they're not going to beat her and starve her, right?
So do you think she's going somewhere good, they're helping her escape, or do you think that they're punishing her? You think that she's going somewhere good, hopefully?
Basically, the question is, do you trust Nick?
Yes.
I sort of imagined a middle ground. Am I making any sense? I imagined her going somewhere that maybe wasn't so great, but like you sort of said, in the meantime, she has the baby, and then we'll see what happens after that. It's kind of that's as far as I thought, honestly. I don't think Nick is going to set her up because that little tender moment.
Right, I was going to say, remember when he whispers
really
in her ear?
He would have dissed her. He found out she was pregnant, but it made him happy.
Well, and right before he captures her, he says something reassuring in her ear,
I
says, just trust me.
He says, go with them, just trust me, or something to that effect, yeah.
So I think they set that little Nick storyline
So
up
then,
to be
here's
the guy
what I
who
hope
saves
for
her.
next season, because I do have hope for Nick, because Max is a very good actor. So hopefully we get Nick trying to figure out how to get the hell out of there so that he can go find his baby, which then brings in a fantastic dynamic of
Oh,
there we go.
terrible,
There it is.
A fantastic dynamic.
You're pregnant with Nick's baby, trying to find Luke, who is with the silent blonde lady up in Canada doing who knows what because he didn't think you were alive. We'll get to that in a little bit.
And find your daughter.
Where is Hannah?
And your daughter.
From Luke.
Exactly.
Let's not forget
From
about
your
Hannah.
actual marriage.
All right, so let's get a question in from my favorite person, who was the one who dared to ask or make the comment on Twitter. I really think the women are great, but the guys need to get more woke. That drunk girl, my favorite Twitter person. She says, how is Luke going to react to June carrying another man's baby? I'm so excited to see where the show is going. Please speculate on all of it. So where do we think specifically, how do you see that playing out with Luke figuring out if indeed they next season do happen to meet up again?
I would think that he can't possibly be surprised that she would be pregnant with somebody else's baby given the situation, correct? I mean, I think he would be surprised to find out that it was voluntary sex.
I was going to say.
Was it though?
Later it sure was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they
I'm
got
only
her
thinking of the
pregnant.
first time when it was Serena
the first
Joy
time was
sneaking
not
a peek
at
in the
all,
corner.
But yeah, later on was certainly voluntary for both parties.
So you think he's going to be on the forgiveness side of things and not?
I think he might be on the forgiveness side until he learns that bit. And then I don't know.
But
how
even
he'll
then,
feel.
if you're in that situation, I gotta
Surely.
think that
I think you get a break pass.
the amount of
if you
slack that
think
you
each
have to
other
give
are
someone
dead.
who's been living in that society has to be like, it's almost like one of those where it's like, what happens in Gilead stays in Gilead.
And she
I
thought
don't
he was
care.
dead. She thought he was dead. She didn't
Right.
know he was in Canada until
Right.
very recently.
Exactly.
She heard
Although she did
gunshots.
keep going to Nick after she found out he was alive.
But wouldn't you?
Yeah, hell yeah, I would.
Because you don't
We've
think you're
talked
getting
about
out.
this on the show.
She
I
thinks
totally
she-
Yeah, you
would.
don't
Because
think
that's
you
at the
can.
point when she does that. That is at the point where she's
You
like,
find your
at
little
her,
bit
like,
of you find your little bit of good in that life, and you hang on to it with everything you
Exactly.
got.
She's at her lowest point when all that goes down because she thinks there's basically no hope for her. And, she has not figured out a way to get it out. And she doesn't really figure it out. Nick is the one that comes up with the plan
Yeah,
and
he
ends
uses
up
his
getting her out.
connections.
And finally,
Right, and what if he actually is sort of hoping for a future with her?
damn right he is. Because so here's the little thing that we do know about Nick. Nick has had issues with his life because of his brother, we assume, being a drug addict. And that he's had to basically take care of his brother and drop random things and lose jobs. And his life was basically, taking care of his brother and trying to figure out how to make that work in his life. And that's why he is kind of non-committal and kind of just kind of coasting through life because everybody that he's had, in his life he's had to always take care of them. And it's been kind of a negative impact on his life. So I think now that he's got something like positive to look out for, I think he's going to try and get the hell out of there as quickly as he can.
I think it all depends on how much Luke has messed around with Aaron. If they've had a relationship that has gotten even close to sexual or romantic or anything like that, I think Luke will be much more forgiving of June because he'll be like, I did what I did because I thought you were dead, and you did what you did because you were being terribly oppressed and you needed to stay sane to keep fighting for our daughter, and that is what we did when
But
this
will it be
happened.
that easy? I feel that's a process, right?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
it isn't so much
I
that she
bet they
got
got-
knocked up by the footman. She had a consensual sexual relationship
Yeah.
with him that continued, and that moment showed they had a connection with each other emotionally. I mean, even her response to him giving her the cold shoulder was like a real emotional response.
True.
So
Yeah.
and I think even in that situation, your head is really messed up. So I feel like she's probably feels closer to Nick than she actually is. Does that make sense? Like she feels even more clinging to him because of the situation that she's in. So I just imagine that being really, really messy. If they just all met up, it'd be like, oh shit, how do we deal with this? Because
I
he
think-
really
I think it's all well and good, and including myself, for me to say what happens in Gilead stays in Gilead. But in reality, everybody's a human being, and those emotions are inside of you, and the jealousy and the resentment, even if it's unintentional, I think are going to crop up, and that's if they meet. We don't even know if they're going to really.
I mean, and that's a baby. And
have
she
any
carries
interaction.
A baby to term, like that's a tie, right? Like, that's a tie. It's like, are you guys going to have like
It's forever.
a polyamorous sort of like, two families together kind of deal? Because like,
Well, if there's anything that would piss Gilead off, it would be that, right?
Well, and Luke's never cheated on June, but Luke's no stranger to...
Extramarital affairs?
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Neither of them are, because she
So-
was the participant.
I bet they've got good counselors up in Canada for the refugees. Good
Well,
therapists up there.
They are. I mean, the refugee center looked amazing,
That
right?
guy was like
Yeah.
the nicest, coolest guy on
Yep.
the planet.
I bet
that
there's lots
greeted-
of therapists on
Do you
staff
think
for all
Canada
the
will be that nice to us?
former American refugees.
I
Oh,
hope
God,
so.
I don't know.
Well, actually,
I don't
heard
think they
about-
would want all the Americans. They'd be like, can we, nicely convince them to go to Mexico instead?
Well, they actually took in a lot of Syrian refugees in Canada, and they did this 2-year program. I actually read about it. It was super cool. But the idea of the program was that whatever Canadian family hosted a Syrian family was that over the 2-year span that they gave them, that they would be working on trying to get them to independence. But what happened with a lot of the Canadian families is they bonded so closely with the Syrian families that by the end of the 2 years, the Syrian family didn't really know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for them to cut that cord because they hadn't been pushing for the independence because they had just gotten so tightly woven into the Canadian families. So he created a bit of an issue because the whole point of hosting the Syrian family was to push them out of the nest and force them to fly, so to speak. And none of that was really happening with a lot
They
of
were too
Canadians.
nice.
The
Well,
Canadians were
Basically,
too
is what you're
nice.
saying. They were
Well,
too nice and
Too
caring.
nice.
Here's the flaw in that plan, though. You're taking people that are coming from a horrific situation, and you're going, here's the plan. We're going to put
Here's
you
the
in
plan.
a
Period.
fantastic family-loving atmosphere with the goal of making you leave that to be on your own. Now, if I've been living in Syria with as terrible as more terrible than I could probably even know that it is, and I get to Canada and I get to be with a loving, cool Canadian family, I don't know that I'm necessarily super excited to be leaving them either.
no.
So, I understand the sentiment behind the plan, and it's a good plan. But I get it. Yeah.
I think it would be hard for anybody to have a family living with you like that and just set them free off into the
So that would
Canadian wild one day.
That would be interesting to see. If they even interact, because we don't even know if Luke and Offred June will even see each other. So we're just really speculating on that at this point. Let's see. What other question was there? So Kira, who I believe she was one of the ones that actually designed something that we gave away. She says, what other TV shows have your attention at the moment? So skewing away from The Handmaid's Tale.
All the shows that I would like are not on right now. I feel like
What have you been
2018,
watching?
It's just gonna be me watching TV. Stranger Things,
Yes,
Mr. Robot,
yes.
Westworld. I don't have anything to watch. I've been watching Bloodline with my cat.
The
So-
Americans just wrapped up. It was a fantastic season.
Is anybody watching anything current that is currently on?
I'm watching This Is Us, but that was earlier this year.
Do you have enough Kleenexes with you?
Yeah, no, it's really
Have you-
bad.
Either of you seen that?
Yeah, I watched
couldn't
the whole
invest
first
myself
season.
in it, but maybe I should.
Oh,
It's good, but it's,
It's
very.
really
Did you
good,
ever watch
but it is
Parenthood?
a real emotional
No.
investment.
Okay.
I don't like. I generally don't like shows like that. It was like everything's like this one family have all this drama and
Well, then you wouldn't like this.
tear
Yeah,
jerking things.
they do.
Is that like a
They
real
do.
life
They do.
thing?
I just
Yeah.
watched
Does that
the
happen in real life,
episode
though?
where
I'm sure to some family.
I'll be vague, but the brother's there for the other brother when he leaves, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
I keep hearing about
Uh,
Queen Sugar, so I think I
I
might.
have heard good
Same.
things about
I'm
Queen
gonna
of
start
Sugar.
watching that soon.
Yeah. We started watching, and I haven't finished it yet, but I intend to. American Gods.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let me talk to you about American Gods. This show is bonkers for people that don't know what it is. So Neil Gaiman, is it Gaiman or Gaiman? Do you know?
I think it's Gaiman, but
Is it
that's
Gaiman?
just
So
what I've
it's
always said in my
it's
head.
based off of one of his novels. He's a very prolific comic/novel writer. Has written tons of things. He did the Sandman Overture was one of his big comic things, which is awesome. If for no other reason other than he created the character of Lucifer, which is a show now on Fox. But in the comic book, it is entirely based his persona off of David Bowie, and so he looks like David Bowie, and it's fantastic. So American Gods is this very cool story of basically how it's kind of the immigrant story for America, but how all the different religions and gods came to this country to North America. Gillian Anderson is in it from X-Files. And she plays, so there's kind of this war of the gods going on. The old school gods, like the Norse gods and some African gods and some other gods, like they're kind of piecing it together and they're fighting the new gods, which are the technology. So it's TV and like all the electronic things that are basically taking over, as people stop worshiping the traditional religious gods. They're starting to get into more of the technology and, cell phones and TV shows and entertainment. So Gillian Anderson's character is actually like this henchman kind of that works for the big overall god of the new gods, who is played by Crispin Glover.
Wow.
He's
I haven't
outstanding.
seen Crispin Glover in a long time.
He's outstanding. And so she gets to play all different kind of things because she can change into whatever she wants to change into. So there's one part where this guy is walking through what is supposed to be like a Sam's or something, and all of a sudden she is on all the TVs talking directly to him, and she is dressed like Lucy from I Love Lucy, and does the whole scene as Lucy from I Love Lucy and talks to him like that.
What?
The next scene, she's in a limo dressed up like Aladdin saying David Bowie. The next time she's Marilyn Monroe and floating across the floor because she doesn't walk, she just does like the subway grate thing the whole time. It's outstanding. It is just as bizarre as I'm making it sound.
Across the room like that.
It's just as bizarre, but it is awesome. But I loved it. So that's what I'm watching.
Wow.
Other than that, I really
That's
can't
a really
think of
interesting
anything.
sales pitch.
Yeah, no, it's outstanding. Other than that, I don't know.
Orphan Black.
Orphan Black.
I
that's
need
it.
to
I
find
knew I
a
was
way to
forgetting
watch
something.
it while it's going on, but I don't pay for the right things for that. So right now I have to wait like a whole year until it's over to get to Amazon, which is not working for me.
Yeah, we're watching that right now, and it's really good. So
Yeah, it's an amazing show.
She was the one that asked two of my favorite questions. Are you comic book graphic novel fans? If so, what are some of your favorites? Are you
Are we
either
gonna
one of
do
those
this?
things?
We're gonna be here all night.
No, we're gonna keep this short, me and you. Are you you live with it?
Yeah, no, I'm not a comic book fan at all, but my husband loves comic books and knows all of them. So I've seen all of the movies, and this is the golden age of comic book movies.
Oh, that's
Lucky
true.
me.
That
And that
is
was
true.
like only partially sarcastic because some of them are really phenomenal. So I know a lot about comic books and I've seen all the movies, and Tim tells me all of the things that I
that you don't
need to know about that. I'm a big Batman fan, but I've yet to actually read a comic book in my life.
What?
Oh, that's sad.
Not one.
We're gonna fix
So
that.
to
We
keep
need to.
this short, I will say that I've been doing this project. I've kind of gotten away from the comic stuff lately. But what I was reading that was amazing. It was Paper Girls. Anybody? No. Obviously
No, but
not.
I want to get my son into that.
It's fantastic. So one of the reasons it's fantastic
it's
is it's
awesome.
set in the mid '80s, like around the time of like the opening thing in the book is the Challenger explosion.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And she's having a nightmare about it. And so it's about these three girls who are paper girls somewhere in Ohio. And their hijinks ensue as they do.
As in paper delivery girls.
Correct.
Yeah, like
Yes,
newspaper-
they
yeah.
newspaper delivery girls.
Okay.
There's four of them, and it's a sci-fi comic, so sci-fi-ish things happen in a bizarre kind of way. But it was one of the things that I latched onto fairly early on because I'm a late bloomer when it comes to the comic stuff. Like I didn't start reading comics till like 3 years ago, if that.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, like my
I
daughter.
mostly read when I was a kid.
I would
and
go
then got
into
away from it.
I would go into a comic book shop and I'd be like, I say this all the time. Why are there 22 Batman comics? Because there's like 18 different versions of everything, and it was so overwhelming.
There's so
to me.
many more
that-
versions of
Just
Batman than
recently
that.
learned about that.
Right,
That's
and-
why
Versions of
people
Batman.
like them. That's
And-
why people like
He's
comics,
my
right?
favorite
Because they
Batman.
Which
change,
one?
They have like alternate stories and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Christopher
Yep.
Nolan.
So Batman.
I don't
Um,
care. The Dark Knight blew my mind off. Blew my face off my
Great.
face. I was
So I'm trying to think. Other than Paper Girls, Bitch Planet is fantastic. If you haven't read that, definitely goes with the themes of the show. So if you like The Handmaid's Tale and feminism and all that,
Wait, a comic called Bitch Planet
Yep.
is feminist?
Totally.
Get out.
it's outstanding. Sex Criminals,
It's
which
either
is
feminist
actually
or it's about
written.
dogs, I don't
Sex
know.
Criminals written by the husband of the woman that wrote Bitch Planet. So they're like power couple in the comic industry. There's a fantastic comic that they have yet to bring back that is called Witches. If you're looking to scare the crap out of yourself, it is WYTCHES. So it's Witches with a Y. It is one of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my entire life. And that's it. Usually, like with comic books, I don't get really super scared because it's a comic book.
Except you hate stuff with scary children. Does it have scary children in it?
Children play a prominent role.
Okay. I know that is a thing with you.
I don't believe
Anyway, we're not talking about that.
Like The Omen is just
Stop
like,
it.
That's okay.
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 So that is awesome. There's a book called Monstrous that was awesome. Forgetting some other things. Oh, and no one's going to believe me, and I can't wait to have this little brief conversation here. So everyone is at least aware of the Archie comics, so Archie, Betty, Veronica?
Yep.
Yes? Okay.
I still have some of my ones from when I was a little
So and
kid.
I think Tiana and I talked about this. So the Archie brand has kind of gone in lots of different ways, but somebody finally just bought it.
Riverdale is a show now.
Yes, and it's supposed to be really good, actually.
Yeah, Todd and I started watching it partially to laugh at, and we were like, but I really want to know what happens. Like, it was kind of like too much and funny, but also I really wanted to know what happened.
So basically somebody bought the Archie brand and kind of, it's its own publishing house now. They just publish Archie comics. But what they have done is there is a horror branch of Archie comics. And they did what is called Afterlife with Archie, which is essentially a zombie Archie story. And when you hear that out loud, you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
No, I would
There's
totally read that.
no way that it can work. It is no bullshit. One of the best things I've ever read in my entire life.
Nice.
Nikki,
Who's writing
my lovely wife, read it. And she, while she was getting her hair done one day, because she doesn't really get it. She's not into comics, like, really at all. She's read a couple things that we've made her read. But this was the first one where she, like, texted me, because there's a part that happens with the dog in the book. Where Archie doesn't make good decisions. That's kind of the history of Archie.
Yeah, that's Archie for
So
real.
there's a zombie apocalypse. They're all in a house at Veronica's rich-ass parents' house. But Archie has to go escape to make sure his parents are okay. Spoiler alert, not okay. Archie's dog is there, and a zombie dog comes, and Archie's dog has to save Archie, and the dog dies. And it is no bullshit sadder than you could even think about. Like, because they do, like, the thoughts of the dog, which sounds cheesy when you say it out loud. And so he calls him, like, Archie Master.
Now
and he's
I
like,
kinda
run,
don't
Archie
wanna
Master,
read
run.
that.
Dude, it is.
Oh my god.
It is devastating. Like,
Well,
Nikki,
now I kinda
she
don't
texts
wanna read
texts
that.
me from the hairdresser, and she's like, oh my god, the part with the dog. And I was like, right? Absolutely. It is brutal, but it is one of the best things you could read. So definitely pick that up. Afterlife with Archie.
No.
And also, for Sarah will remember this, I think, Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Closer explains it all.
So
except-
what I didn't know is that apparently they're in the
It's
same
magic.
universe, right? So
Wait,
Archie is in
what?
what?
Oh, wait, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Archie is in Riverdale, and apparently the Sabrina the Teenage Witch stuff is in Greendale,
Oh.
which in this universe is adjacent, just across town. They're the separate town over there.
Josie and the
So
Pussycats
cool.
is an Archie spinoff as well.
Yes.
Anyway, apparently lots of people didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Weird. And
It's
so
just a whole
they do
world I
a
know nothing
like
about.
hardcore witch version of Sabrina's
So
story.
it's not the light.
No, it is
Sabrina we
Wait,
know.
so
definitely.
there's a comic for Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Yes.
Now,
I'm
see,
sure there's
that-
more than
that
one.
would be a hook
Yeah,
for
there
me.
is more than one. So there's like they do the traditional Archie, Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
There is a comic of
Like they are in the show.
Any like cultural thing that you love, there is surely a comic about it.
That is interesting because I really truly did not
Oh,
know
we need
that.
to take you to a
And
And
comic
I
store.
like stuff like that. I like visual reading things.
So that's what I would
And comic book
recommend.
stores
any
are
of,
welcoming
any of
to
those
women
things.
and people of color now, so it's
I'm
great.
trying to think. Oh, Miss Marvel is a huge
Miss Marvel
thing.
is great. Everybody
Miss Marvel
should read
is
Miss
a
Marvel.
for those people who don't know, written by a Muslim woman and is a Muslim superhero. And the stories are fantastic, and the book
Yeah.
is amazing.
And new Miss Marvel's name is Kamala Khan.
Correct.
Which makes me really happy every time I hear about Kamala Harris in Congress doing amazing things.
I know.
Every
It's the
time
only
I like
Kamala
picture
I've ever
Kamala
heard.
Harris like in Congress, but like in a Miss Marvel uniform.
Do you have anything to add to that list? Is there anything that you're reading? I know
I
you
was
don't
gonna,
have
I
much
was gonna
time.
push Miss Marvel. I'm actually not reading many
Yeah.
comics right now, so yeah,
Maybe
I don't
maybe
have time
that's
for stuff
maybe
right
that's
now.
in our future.
I don't have stuff.
Maybe
I don't
the
have time
comic podcast is
for
in our
very many
future.
extracurriculars at the moment.
dig
I
it.
was obsessed with Sabrina the Teenage Witch, so this is like I'm pretty excited. Just gonna throw that out there.
I'll give you the book. So the last question, and this is, I think Tiana thought that this was going to be a longer conversation than it's going to be. So the last question from Kira was, do you prefer Tiffany or Debbie Gibson? Now, I will say this. Do you prefer, it's sort of a loaded question, prefer from what standpoint? Now, better singer, Clearly Tiffany.
Tiffany.
Hands down. If you were going to compare it, it pretty much compares to Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears.
Christina Aguilera.
Absolutely. Christina Aguilera, phenomenal voice, great singer. Britney Spears, probably not a better entertainer, but the more clean-cut, wholesome performer. Not a terrible singer. She can sing.
Dance.
Wholesome?
But, I mean, at first.
A package. She's a package.
Yes. And so...
Better dancer.
From a singer standpoint, I would definitely take Tiffany. You know what? I'm going to take that back. Total package, probably going to take Tiffany.
Better looking.
Yeah.
Not that matters, but...
I have a redhead thing. Big fan.
Yep.
So she checks that box. Her voice is amazing, like if you've ever heard her sing. Yep. Should have been. Great song. Hands down, period. Not even like ironically. Great song. Debbie Gibson, no problem with Debbie Gibson. She's gorgeous and had many hits. And I had the piano sheet music of Lost in Your Eyes. Tried to play that. That was my, See, I have a checkered musical history. It's amazing. You guys have no idea.
I do have no idea. It's pretty amazing.
I like to chip away.
I always remember, whenever I think of her, the only thing I can remember is, and I forget which album it was, but she had the hole in her jeans on the knee, and it had the happy face written on her knee, on the album cover. It's the only thing I remember. That and the Electric Youth perfume, that was literally everywhere. Well, Walgreens, other than that. So, other than perfume and writing faces on her knee, Tiffany takes the cake, in my opinion.
I was never into either one of them, so I
was never
have no
particularly
opinion.
into either one, but
If I had to choose, it's Tiffany.
I don't know who these people are.
I love this. I love
with
the
that
fact that Crystal
particular
doesn't know what
type
happens.
of pop music. Like my inclination was always to change the channel, so I've never heard most of their songs.
Yeah, we know you were too cool for school.
No, it's not my thing.
There doesn't seem to be anyone around. That's for Crystal, just in case.
And I just realized you laughed at me about playing piano because you're a piano snob and you played piano.
A little snobby.
Love it.
I have a couple things.
Just like I'm
snobby
kind of
about.
laughing at you singing because I sang.
It's pretty awful. No, but
No.
I was just wanting to jog Crystal's memory because I'm sure she's heard it like in a
we're gonna
grocery store or
definitely. Oh, you've definitely heard it in the grocery store.
Yeah, maybe if you play it.
Like,
We'll play some Tiffany and Debbie Gibson right after we get done the show.
Justin's
So
gonna sing it.
that's it. That's all the questions I got.
I really loved the listener questions. Let's do that again next time.
Yeah,
That
was fun.
is
And
super
that's one
fun.
of those things that I
That's great.
would always think
You guys are
try and
smart.
do, and I never would do it because I have a million things. I
Yeah,
think
let's
about
do
with
at
the
least
show.
one every episode next season because that
Absolutely.
was super, super fun.
So
Yeah.
again, thank you all, Crystal, Tiana, and Sarah, and Rhea, because hopefully she's listening. Thank you all for helping me do this and for being part of this and for really being the stars of the show because I'm just kind of here. Because you guys are invaluable and you are absolutely amazing. And I told Sarah this, like Sarah came in midstream, like as full-time
Totally
part of the
invited
show,
myself.
and it's fine. And you've been
You were invited.
phenomenal. Like,
Kinda.
And then I invited you to keep coming back.
Yep.
Thank you. But no, I actually went through Justin's wife and was like dorking out hard at a retirement party, and Nikki was there, and I was like, I love their podcast so much. I have so many things I wrote down and questions, and Nikki was like, yeah. And then she talked to Justin.
I was like, who? Sarah? Well, yeah. Because you know me, I'm like, whatever. We can have 22 people on a podcast. It's fine. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I knew that
Well, it
other
worked
guy
out
had
well
bailed.
since
Yeah, Jason
we
had
lost
bailed.
a member.
And I'll tell you what I do have to do. I do have to give a thanks to Jason. So if you listen to the first 3 episodes of the show, Jason was on there. Jason had to drop out. And I'm just going to be honest. Jason just wasn't into the material.
Don't blame him.
And, you know,
It's
some people,
hardcore.
it's not your thing. And I told him, I really wish he would have stayed on because I wanted that guy who hadn't read it and who isn't necessarily into that kind of thing perspective. I was really hoping for it.
Yep.
He just wasn't into it. And I told him I'm not, it's a podcast and we're doing it for fun. So I'm not going to sit here and like hold a gun to your head and say like, you have to do the show,
Yeah,
man.
this is not a job.
So-
We're all just doing this for
And
fun.
instead, he was replaced by someone who loves the show,
That's right.
loves the book, dorking out hard over here.
So Sarah as the replacement was fantastic. But Jason is actually kind of the spark for this whole thing, really, because Jason 2 years ago, I believe, started his own podcast called Blues Hockey Podcast, which is going to be part of our whole family here at allconsumingcontent.com. And so he's one of those, he just started and just did it. And I'm a jealous type of guy. So I was like, I want to do a thing.
Yeah.
Can I do a thing? And I like hockey. I love
thing,
hockey,
too.
but I didn't want to do a hockey podcast. So eventually when I got the Adderall let my brain say, okay, we can do this. Here's how, in order.
I wonder if I need that.
Oh, it's magic. I'm not even lying. Like, you can ask her.
Wait, did you have? Okay,
We'll talk about
Yeah,
Adderall.
talk
That's
about
a whole
that.
different podcast. So thank you to Jason for, sparking this idea. And he did, when we talked about it, he's like, I'm really happy that he did it. And he's like, I'm really happy for you because you got to do it. And me playing some small part in you actually, doing this, because Tiana will tell you, I'm an idea guy that never follows through on anything that comes out of my head.
Yeah.
All the time. Like the stuff that I come up with, like
you have lots of ideas.
Lots of ideas, but I don't ever do any of them. So the fact that I've done this is a major
all the way to the end.
I'm so pumped.
Yeah, you have no idea.
I'm so glad you're doing this.
So yeah, and we have more to come, and I'm really excited about it. Now that I've done it, it's like I want to do them all the time, right? So I have all kinds of ideas. So we will have more coming. Look forward to the Music Cult podcast with me and Rhea as we compare each other's musical and cult movie selections. I can't wait. It's going to be so great. So again, thank you all for downloading and listening to the podcast. It blew me away as the reception that everyone has had for it. And by and large, it has all been positive, and I have not gotten, at least not to me, and anybody else can speak up if they have, not one other than I was not woke enough, which is probably true, negative comment about what we've been doing. So all the response has been great, and we're going to keep going and stick around, and we'll be putting stuff out monthly. And I'll be honest, I've been talking to people about doing interviews, and if I get interviews that I can do and I can just put out, like not even part of the podcast, and do it, I'm just going to put them out. So we'll put out content when we have content to put out, but for sure once a month you're going to be hearing from us. And definitely going to be doing other podcasts down the road, hopefully with more of the people that are in this room right now. And
if you subscribe, it'll just pop up in your new feed magically.
The Handmaids podcast, you will definitely get that automatically, which is a bonus for us and you. And so, yeah, just look out for more of our stuff. And once again, we really appreciate it. We are Mayday, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. We'll see you in about 1 month. Thank you very much.
Bye.